Okay, we're on, Andrew. I'm having a chat with Andrew Giordano, violinist. Were you one of the founders, or did you all found together, or how'd that work with the Altius Quartet?
Yes, I am one of the founders. Yeah, so Zach Reeves, the cellist,
Cellist.
and Andrew Krim and I, we were the founders of Altius Quartet. And actually, Zach, we all met at Southern Methodist University in Dallas, Texas, in 2011. And Zach had this at the time had this concert series in Dallas called Bridge the Gap Chamber Players.
Nice.
And so he needed a quartet to play chamber music for this chamber series that he was the artistic director for. And so he formed this quartet, and originally it was supposed to be we're just going to perform a few concerts together, and then eventually we took a chamber music class as part of our degree at SMU, and that was actually with the at the time the chamber music director's name his name is Matt Albert. So we took the class with him, and then he encouraged us to just kind of keep building on that. And we did a lot of different competitions and music festivals eventually, and just, we just started to grow our career.
Now,
And,
I need to jump in just for a second because, as
Yes,
you can
please.
see, the sun is creeping through the blinds here in my apartment. So anyone who thinks I
It
may
is.
be having brain surgery, it will pass within a few minutes. But
Yeah,
I
you
can't,
got like dots all over your forehead.
I can't do anything about it. It's that
Yeah.
time of day. An hour later I would not. But I just noticed. I thought it looks like rather Klingon-ish. Anyway, just so people won't be. And by the way, there's no such
Yeah.
thing as editing.
Like
But
freaked
I wanted
out.
to get that in because I think I saw you have a look at it while you were talking, and there was actually a slight stutter.
No, I didn't even notice it until you brought it up.
Oh,
It's like,
okay, my fault. Anyway, so that is good. So you've known that's been 2011. So that's and then so where'd you drag Joshua Ulrich in from?
Yeah, we dragged him in. Actually, Josh and I have been friends for a long time. He and I first met at a music festival in Maine one summer. It's called the Bowdoin International Music Festival. And so he and I met, and I'm a little bit younger than he, and so he was kind of more of a mentor figure for me. And then again, in the Aspen Music Festival in 2009, where again he was a mentor. I was like principal second for one of the orchestras, and he was the orchestra mentor, is what his title was. And so we kind of got to know each other, and then eventually, when our previous violinist left and the position was open, he was the first person I thought of because he's a great violinist, and I knew that we would get along really well.
So is he the old man of the group? Or is that what you're telling me?
Yes.
He's the mentor of the group.
Yeah. We definitely give him a lot of crap about it too.
I'm sure. And by the way,
Yeah.
speaking of mentors, I know we talked a little off camera, but speaking of mentors, I mean, you are Boulder based. Is that the whole quartet or just you? The quartet is Boulder based at University of Colorado?
Yes. We live, not all of us live in Boulder proper, but we're in the Boulder, Denver area. Like,
Yeah.
Denver is about 40 minutes away, so we're like in the same general area.
Yeah. And what I meant about mentors, you have, as a quartet, studied with the Takash Quartet, and I mentioned to you that I had heard Haydn quartets all my life, and then suddenly I heard Takash play Haydn properly. It blew my
Yep.
brains out. I've now that was a revelation to me. So
Yeah.
congratulations. By the way, I think I know this is going to be awfully, what do you call it? I don't know, not kiss ass, but something close to it. When I say to you that what reminds me in what I hear on the CD we're going to eventually talk about is the way your quartet, the Altius Quartet plays. There's this absolute clarity of articulation. I mean, just absolute total clarity. I can hear the fingers almost. I can hear the bowings. It's that kind of clarity. It's just stunning. And that also reminds me of Takash. So, okay, now let's start over here because we got lost a little bit or jumped the gun. Andrew Giordano, violinist, Altius String Quartet, and here's the CD we're going to talk about. Their second CD, the three spectacularly genius, forgive my bad English, quartets numbers 7, 8, and 9 of Dmitri Shostakovich, and they are spectacular in that they are the deepest possible searchings of this man's soul. It's an incredible CD. Let me see, I've got all the stuff for it. You guys formed in 2011. Let's see, when did you do the quartet? You put out the 7, 8, and 9 quartets of Shostakovich. Oh, it was released by Navona in 2017, not so very long ago.
Yes.
And this is your second release. The earlier release looks like lots of fun. Dress Code. The cover had to have gone viral. It's a very cute cover.
Yes, it's definitely it's an attention grabber for sure. Yeah.
Okay, so you did that. You got everybody's attention. They're all excited. Yep. Everybody's having fun, and then you give them this.
Yes.
We've talked about it. We're going to go right straight to the bottom of the whole issue, which is that these are powerful. These are disturbing quartets. These are the music from a man who is carrying the angst of all of mankind, the devastations of World War II, the horrors of the communist regime in the late 50s and 60s. These 3, 7, 8, and 9 are all written within the same framework of time. They're all, hard. They're a hard listen because they are so intimate and so personal. So just tell me, first of all, you sat around the kitchen table drinking beer to come up with the Altius Fortius named, right, wrong? How long did it take? How many fights did you have, first of all, just to come up with the title Altius Quartet?
Actually, it wasn't too hard. We needed a name for it. This was obviously a long time ago at this point when we kind of first started, and we had a different name, but then we found out that another ensemble had a very similar name, so we're like, and we were doing some competition, and we just needed a new name. So what we actually did is we went to a Latin dictionary, and we just looked up really cool sounding names, and obviously we didn't get too far because it starts with A, Altius. And so we just thought it sounded really cool. And then when we looked at what it meant and what it was part of, the faster, higher, stronger from the Olympic motto, we thought that was perfect because, since we're the higher part, like kind of always striving to, reach some unattainable success or glory or something like that.
Besides, you had a devilish, exciting pagan mantra you could chant repeatedly on your rise to the top. And by the way, you guys are
now
busy,
that we live in Colorado, it makes sense as well, since we live in a state that's elevated as well. We live in close to the Mile High City. So
okay, so I had to get there. I'm kind of bouncing all over the place, but I kind of wanted to. So we're going to now talk about these quartets. Mainly, what I'm interested in is how the decision was made. We know the connection of these 3. We've just spoken about that, or I have. But how come? I mean, you put out your first CD, the second CD. People would have thought you'd be saying, "Okay, we'll do a little Schubert. We'll do some, we'll pick up the perk a bit." Instead, you chose these much more serious works. Go.
Yeah, you've kind of hit the nail on the head with the question, and the whole thing we're about in Altius is doing really different kinds of projects that maybe some people wouldn't expect a string quartet to do. So the whole thing was we actually planned 2 albums at once. So we planned our first album, which was entitled Dress Code, and is really kind of easygoing. It mixes Haydn with more like pop arrangements or crossover tunes.
Nice.
And then, because we love playing Shostakovich, and we feel like the characters in Shostakovich were able to really kind of bring out of the music, we decided to pick an all Shostakovich album because part of it was, just like you said, it's so different. It's so unexpected that after we would come up with like this really fun kind of easygoing album, all of a sudden we'd go in completely different direction and come out with the Shostakovich album. And
by the way, it says a lot about the quartet. I'm sure you 4 have thought about this also. It says, hey, not to forget we're serious. Gin and tonic, I see, with no ice. Perfect. How English.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. That's right.
Sorry. Anyway, But yeah, so correct. I mean, in other words, this is saying here's our introduction to that first CD, a lighter introduction. So we can have a good time too. And then here we are, serious intellectuals.
That's exactly right. Yes, because we love doing so many different kinds of music and performing at different venues and doing different kinds of shows that we wanted to kind of do the whole spectrum in 2 albums.
Yeah. Okay, good. And so now let's look at these three numbers: 7, 8, and 9. All really from 1960, essentially. The ninth quartet was written in. Bottom line for everybody, I'm sure lots of musicians know this as well, but I didn't know it was this intense. But Shostakovich was in a very severe health issues, but also a very severe depression. Well, we wonder why. World War II he had somehow managed to survive. The communist system of the 50s he had managed to survive. It's enough to break anyone. And so these three quartets are essentially from about 1960. The number 9 in a fit he burned and then rewrote the thing, so it's dated to 1964. But these three are broiling, interconnected brain matter. I mean, I can't think of it. I'm trying to get to a level that these speak to. That we're talking about hearing with our ears the subconscious of this man. And I've become very conscious of how world wars will destroy people for generations. I mean, it takes generations to get over that. So speak to that in number 8, because it's particularly introspective, and I'm using a sweet word as opposed to just playing. It's, he's down big time.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, like you said, World War II had recently happened, and he, as most musicians probably are aware, it's dedicated to the victims of fascism and the war. And so, you see that at the top of the work, and you immediately know, like, okay, this is going to be a serious, dark piece. And a lot of Shostakovich's music is dark, but in this case, it's got a substance that it just starts off with his signature, which is DSCH, in every voice, and it just sets such a dark, somber tone for the entire work. And it starts off this way, and then the last movement, it ends the same way, much quieter. But the whole thing is dark and intense, with obviously hints of sarcasm, like Shostakovich always does. But from the moment it starts to the last note, it's got a very serious quality of character, and I think audiences tend to really like that, because it's so, every character that happens is so noticeable. It's like, oh my gosh, it's really intense right now, or oh, it's sarcastic, or it's quiet and weird sounding. So yeah, that's kind of the eighth.
I use the word haunted. I use the word haunted a lot for those quiet passages in all three quartets. I mean, I feel like I'm in a foggy black forest or something. I mean, it's a very haunted kind of sound. Wonderful writing, we can all agree. Superb imagery with the capacities of string quartet. Just absolutely amazing. And I think I mentioned to you earlier that the thing about these quartets is they are unrelenting, all three of them, but and even we can say unrelenting even in their quietude. You know what I mean? They're just an emotional stress. So congrats to Altius for putting these three together. And I don't know, did you need a long vacation afterward, or I'm serious, because it has to be hard, very hard. It
was really intense. It's really intense, because like you said, why didn't you guys do maybe a different album with kind of different kinds of things, Schubert or something, where you could kind of mix it up, like, oh well, this is a more lighthearted piece, or and then this is more dark. I mean, all three of the quartets, while there are light moments in 7 and 9. There's a very deep, dark intensity that runs through all three of them. So it is really intense to record, because you have to put yourself in that character 100% for, let's see, I think it was 4 or 5 days that we did, 6 hours a day. So it's just like, it's draining, and it's really intense to be kind of in that same thought process for that long of a period of time.
Oof. Wow, and the marriage held together apparently.
Can you believe it?
That's amazing. Well, let's kind of now. I want to look at number. Excuse me. So we looked at number 8, kind of the most somber and introspective, I think, of the 3. Let's back up a little bit to number 7.
Sure.
Also from 1960. It's a bit more playful, but I think in an ironic sense and so on. So I mean, these light moments are manic. And sarcastic even, which was his whole thing. I mean, that's how he fought Stalin and everything else. The Fifth Symphony, all of it. There's sarcasm everywhere, and luckily some people were too stupid to see it thrown right in their faces, or Shostakovich would be dead.
Yeah.
So number 7, tell me about that. How about putting that one together? By the way, all of these quartets have contiguous movements. They're all one continuous piece. For example, the number 8, 5 moods, if you will, 5 vignettes, whatever, 5 scenes even, you could say, and so on. So number 7 is what, 3? Yeah, 3. Back to that kind of standard 3 movement concept. Yeah, tell me about it.
And it's it's very. Sorry about that.
That's okay.
Someone was trying to call me right there.
Really, those
it's
swine?
A lot different. Yeah, that's right. Trying to interrupt my interview. It's really a lot different than the 8th quartet, whereas the 8th quartet starts off really dark and sets up a very somber tone. The 7th quartet starts off extremely sarcastically. You just hear this this little scalar motion down in the first violin, followed by 3 knocks. Dig-a-dum, 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 dum, dum, boom, boom, boom. And so we always take those knocks, that's a repeating theme throughout Shostakovich's music, to be the kind of the KGB knocking on someone's door to grab and take them away.
Oh my God! Hang on, let me just congratulate you. I'm 70 going on 71. Never did that analogy occur to me before. Thank you for saving my life from now on about Shostakovich. Those last 3. Well, more somber. Bum, bum, bum. Thank you very much.
Yes.
Carry on.
Yeah. So you'll hear in a lot of Shostakovich's music, you'll hear a lot of that mood and those knocks coming out throughout his music. So you hear that sarcasm starting off in the first violin and the other voices in the first movement. And actually, this quartet, the 7th quartet, is Shostakovich's shortest work that he wrote, or shortest string quartet that he wrote. And so, whereas you said the 8th quartet is kind of 5 movements, 5 little vignettes, these are the 3 movements in the 7th quartet are super short, kind of compact works that have a lot of depth and personality, but it's all just packed in into a really short span of time. I think the work is 13 or 15 minutes. That, very short, yeah.
And also that whole last section, that last fast section. Oh boy, did I love that! And by the way, I've heard this a million times. I told you earlier, to hear the articulation so crystal clearly and cleanly every single note. It's just a great compliment to you as an ensemble and to the recording technician.
Yeah, Kevin did a great job.
Beautifully. Anyway, that was great. Yeah. That was a bear, correct? You know what I'm talking about? That very fast thing. Section.
Yeah. In the last movement, it's really it's hard to really get together. It was very difficult, obviously, in recording to just be super consistent about it and have everyone, because everyone is coming on in kind of a canon, so everyone just kind of jumping on the train and just being right together from the start in every single take. That's tricky for sure.
Yeah, wonderful, well done. Let's see, have we exhausted number 7? I think so. I think it's time to look at number 9, and I just want to remind folks that there was an original 9 quartet circa 1960 with these other 2, 7 and 8, and Shostakovich burnt it in a fit. Clearly. And then started over, rewrote it, and what I read, he said that this new number 9 is a completely different work. Now, to me, in many ways, it sounds very much like part of the 3. So, what do you think he was getting at, if anything?
Yeah.
Have you thought about that at all? Number 9. We're talking about number 9 now.
Yeah. So, if you think of how the end of Shostakovich 8 ends really soft and creepy, if you can imagine number 9 starting off at the very end of 8, where you just have this very somber, the cello and viola start off with this just E flat, and they're holding this note, and then there's a very lost sounding melody in the first violin. And if you can think of it as kind of taking where the eighth quartet left off, very lost, and we kind of thinking, we always think about this image of someone in Siberia, frozen Siberia, a single lone survivor of something catastrophic, walking and trying to find his or her way. It's kind of how we set up the character of the ninth quartet.
Thank you. That was very jolly. Go ahead.
Yeah. Yes. Yeah, that's what it's all about. Very jolly characters.
But what a great idea! I wonder have you ever considered doing that, where you offer number 8 and number 9, and without telling anyone, you just immediately move right into 9?
We've never done that. That's a great idea. Because it wouldn't be a vast amount of time. It would take up an entire first half, but that would be pretty cool.
Anyway, just a thought. Now that you've brought that kind of issue.
The idea.
Thank you. There'll be a 10% commission, of course. Yeah. Okay. Now, where were we? We were still on number 9. We were finishing that off a little bit, or have we finished it? I think.
We've talked about kind of how it starts, but what I love about how it ends as well. The last movement is the fifth movement of the ninth quartet is as long. I think it's longer than all the other 4 movements of the ninth quartet combined. So it's a huge journey. This last movement, and it's really intense. It starts out extremely intense, and it ends really intense. But it kind of, as we get towards the end of the fifth movement, it ends triumphantly. And so you can think about that. Your listeners can think about however they want. But we always view it as finally like Shostakovich has triumphed over evil, or triumphed over this Stalinist regime that he's dealt with his entire life. So it ends with kind of a high note, and whereas the other both 7 and 8th quartets, they don't end in a big triumphant way.
Yeah. Don't you want to know what that first number 9 was? It's just like,
it would be nice to know, what he hated about the first try so much.
And I think sorry.
So many composers have done the same thing. They try this or that and they just burn it, and we're like, I would have liked to know what that was.
But some people do that as process, whereas I am imagining Shostakovich really in a bad way and just in a fit.
Yes.
But off he went and wrote the whole thing over again. That's very interesting about the triumph, and I'm going to throw a little curve at you because I don't know if I know anything about the 10th quartet. What I'm getting at is, does the mood improve? You guys as a quartet, have you read any of the later quartets, 10, 13, any of them?
We've done 14, but we haven't done any of the quartets in between 9 and 14. So, yeah,
I just
guys
wonder
should go out and listen to them. Yeah.
If you I'm just wondering if your theory might he became a little happier guy, and he had to have although the 60-64 thing was, we were as close to the annihilation of the human race as we've ever been, and I hope never to go back there again. And he certainly knew that as a creative artist, as an empath, if that's the right word, as a man, empathetic to the world and its troubles. Okay, so what's going on? You're playing a lot around. I think you're back in Colorado, or you do. I saw a gig somewhere in Colorado on the 30th of November coming up, and so what's that? So by the way, thank you. I think you mentioned this was you made me feel guilty that this was your beginning of your Thanksgiving holiday, and here I am, even in your privacy of your home.
No problem. Yeah. No, it's good. I'm glad we could do this today when I'm free.
Yeah, exactly. And it's been a long ordeal, as you know. We've had some short circuitry. That's the easiest way of putting it over the past several weeks.
So the next few things, we've got a concert in Boulder in a couple weeks. We'll be playing some works that we'll also be playing in New York in January, so kind of to get us ready for that recital. Yeah. And then, and what I'm really excited about in January is we're doing our 3rd album, actually, and it's a call for scores through our label, Parma Records. Yeah. And they also own the Navona label. Yes. And so we'll be recording 8 new works.
Wow.
From 8 composers, and we haven't we'll start rehearsing these works this next week. So that'll be our big project from here until January.
Who makes the choices? Does Parma make the choices? Winnow things down, or how does that get to you? How does the ultimate end product get to you guys?
Yeah, we had discussions with them. Parma sent us some scores to listen to and look at, and then we gave them our opinions, and then they had some opinions about what they liked. So we kind of just had some compromises and decided what we really felt strongly about, and then they had some stuff that they felt strongly about putting on the album as well. So it was definitely a joint effort to come to a decision about what rep is on there. Yeah,
sounds like a 2 CD set, actually, to tell you the truth. If it's 8 works.
Yeah, but some of them are shorter, so it'll be it'll be I think a normal length CD.
Well, that's good, and Parma does a great service, I think. Honestly.
Yeah.
So many, as I've
really
said to everybody I've spoken to, I've discovered so much incredible repertoire since I've started interviewing so many musicians from Parma and other labels who are putting out just incredible, wonderful repertoire.
Yeah.
Well, I think we're done. Thank you very much for giving me some time. We have, I think we've done a dive into Shostakovich in that particular time in his life, and it's good. The recording is magnificent. I even use the word muscular, and almost with a little bit of regret, because it sometimes can be misinterpreted, but it's just meaty, engaged performances. So I want to thank you for a brilliant recording of those last three quartets in particular, 7, 8, and 9. They are a Navona release. Let's see, hang on. And by the way, I forgot to plug myself here. We're going to put all this up, the video interview, links to buy the CD, all that stuff, videos of the quartet playing. You have a beautiful recording of a segment of Shostakovich number 8 on video. All up at performingartsreview.net. And of course, I'll send out the e-blasts and the various notices, and we'll see if you sell a couple CDs and maybe get another gig offer. Who knows?
Cool. Yeah, that sounds great. That sounds great.
You're so blasé. Cool. Okay.
And for those of you who have watched this video interview from the beginning, you may have noticed I mentioned Matt Albert, our first chamber music coach. He's the producer of this album as well, and so it kind of came around full circle. It was really nice for us to get to. He did a great job producing the album. He was super helpful. So it's just a fun little fact that he was our first chamber music coach. He brought us all together, and then he produced the album for us. So
that
it was
is
great.
Sweet. Yeah, that's keeping it within the family for sure. That's wonderful.
Exactly. Yeah.
Okay, Andrew Giordano, violinist, Altius Quartet. Thanks for having a conversation with me about the genius of the 20th century, Dmitri Shostakovich.
Thank you, Dan.
We'll see you again. Okay, bye.
All right.